Hey everyone, it's Emily with Spiceworks. Thanks for tuning in today and joining us on another Spiceworks partner webinar. From a help desk far, far away, the top 10 factors your remote management solution needs. Brought to you by Goverlan. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that the webinar will be recorded. So if you have to step away for any reason, you will get an email with a link to the video in about a week. Also, there's a Q&A box on your screen to the left. We encourage you to submit your questions at any time during the presentation. We'll get to those questions at the end via verbal Q&A. But if your question isn't addressed live, Goverlan will be able to follow up with you. So now that all the housekeeping is done, I'd like to introduce our presenters. Ezra Charm, VP of Marketing, and Raul Ortiz, VP of Customer Support. So Ezra, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Thank you so much, Emily, and thanks to everybody who attended today. We really appreciate it. Just a quick agenda for you guys, just to set the expectation. We're going to go through some the top 10 factors. We may even have a bonus consideration you want to throw in there, and afterwards we're going to do some great giveaways. So we encourage you to hang out with us, listen in, participate, and maybe even win a prize. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just to give you a little bit of background about Goverlan, we've been around for quite a while. We were established way back in 1998, which is, I think, when they invented computers. And an interesting thing about Goverlan is we were originally built for a large deployment in a financial institution, and then since then been scaling down to small businesses with in-house IT staff. So it's a little bit different than a traditional company in our space who normally starts with a 10 to 15 seat deployment and learns how to scale up. We went the other way. Like the slide mentions, we have over 7,000 companies in 110 countries using Goverlan across 17 industries. And for all of those who joined us from the Spiceworks community, we absolutely love Spiceworks, and Spiceworks loves us. So that's, we would love to see you guys continue to interact with us in the community. Raul and myself are both on there constantly, so reach out at any time. I do want to do a quick intro on Raul. He is the Goverlan guru who's going to be offering insight into what your remote management solution needs. And just to show you that Raul has a background very similar to a lot of who would be on the phone today with systems administration, system automation, working in financial institutions, really managing systems in large companies. So that's why he's speaking today. I'm speaking in a role of assisting Raul, but he's really the star of the show. To get started here, we did kind of an informal poll, and I'll tell you a little bit about the method on how we collected some information. But I went to a Spiceworks post that said, "What don't you like about IT?" And I copied all of the responses to that question and threw them in a Word document, and then looked for how often certain words occurred. And the two words that occurred the most were users and people, and I found that very, very fascinating. IT is almost a service role, aside from making sure the infrastructure works. There's a lot of interactions with end users. I know in most organizations it's up to IT to make sure that users can, access what they need to access, print what they need to print, all their devices working properly. And understandably, having worked in IT a little myself, it is a big point of frustration for systems administrators and even for help desk people interacting with users who may not be technically savvy or just, there's a lot of frustration there. So, with that said, I wanted to see if we could generate a little bit of a response from you guys and ask you that same question. So you should see an informal poll on your screen, and if you feel like participating and telling us what you don't like about IT, we'd love to know. We'd love to hear where you're getting frustrated on a daily basis. If maybe I left anything out on the previous slide. I know we had things like printers and and people and users and help desk tickets, and which all sounds like IT stuff. So I really think it's interesting that, these are the things that really came up a lot. What do you think some of the responses we might see would be?
Well, you're definitely going to see a lot between people and users, right? What's the problem between the keyboard and the chair? That's something that's always going to be a very popular one. At the end of the day, you got to understand that people are just trying to get their jobs done. So you just want to get in there and fix their issues and keep it moving.
And I think that's a great segue into the first factor that we want to consider in choosing a remote management solution. So I'm going to close this poll down and move on and thank everybody who participated. But the first factor we want to look at is something in usability. It's something that, it's a solution that understands the way you work. And I pulled this little quote off LinkedIn, which is a user interface is like a joke. If you have to explain it, it's not that good. And that really jumped out at me. You go through a lot of different product demos, and there's a big learning curve on how to use a solution and the interest. And so I think that this is a great point. An intuitive user interface, and aside from just a user interface, something that's easy to deploy and maintain, something that you don't have to has that learning curve, and also something that makes your job easier. And just a little side note, as we're going through these 10 factors, we gave some little Goverlan tips in the bottom corner over there, just some features that our product has, and we're going to highlight some of those in our quick demo later. Raul, you have anything to add on this?
Absolutely. This is probably the single most important thing, that if you're looking for a remote management solution, you're going to want to make sure that that the system really adapts to the way that you work. And when we go through our day and we come onto issues and problems and we see things that we want to fix, nothing makes a sysadmin or somebody on the help desk or a desktop support guy happier than finding that one great script online that you download and you run, and it fixes your problem and you move along. That's really the key here. You don't want to have to get a system that that's going to have a large footprint. You want something that's easy to install. It runs right away. You can start using it in meaningful ways within minutes. And I think that's really, really important for remote management systems.
Yeah, I think quick time to value is important in any system. And the next point that we want to cover here is what we talked about in the what don't you like about IT, which is users and people. The thing that came up the most often, and there's a lot of remote management solutions that have their focus around remote control, which is you log into an end user's machine and you set up a session where you can go ahead and move their mouse and keyboard around and set things up for them, and everything works fine. But I don't know if even systems administrators across the board realize that there are a ton of things that you can do without using remote control, and we just listed a couple of them there, but there is a lot more. And the point of this is you want to be able to get your job done without being disruptive, like we mentioned. And I don't mean the system administrator or help desk support person is being disruptive, but even the end user is being disruptive to your day. There should be a good process where you could put the ticket in, the end user puts the ticket in, you get the ticket, you do the work, and it's done. And you don't have to have back and forth phone calls and setting up times to coordinate remote control sessions.
Absolutely. It comes to, at the end of the day, you want to be able to, you want to look like a magician. You want to input your time and fix issues, having full command and control of your machines behind the scenes, and the user is none the wiser. They really don't understand what's going on, and nor do they have to. It's not their job. If you have something to fix, you jump in, you fix it. You don't have to take their keyboard and mouse and stop them from doing anything. Plenty of times where, I've gone into a system, made some system changes, and I say to the user, yeah, just restart Internet Explorer, and it's fixed. It's ready to go. And that's the kind of effect that you'd like to have on your users. Your remote management system should really make you feel like a magician and give your support department great credibility, and make you guys look like all-stars.
Superheroes. Yeah, the word. This is, go ahead, Raul, on one
Okay.
question.
So another part of having a great remote management system is really its automation, right? So automation with intelligence, we like to throw this one out there first, is because it's more than just setting up a series of actions to do something. You want to be able to have a system make decisions for you when the time comes and when's necessary. So having a remote management solution that can execute tasks for you and make decisions for you, sort of like Skynet, right? Something like that. You might want to set that up and get it running for you. It's great for your runbook automation tasks for your larger shops. We also like to work on global configuration management, automating the ability to apply a series of configurations to a machine, or to any machine for that matter, if you're dealing with 10 or 10,000 machines. So that's another key aspect to automation, and also the standardization of your task. Like I said before, you download that great script that you've used for all these years, and it just does its job. It does everything according to how you want it. Well, having a good remote management solution should have that same feeling, that same impact. You set it up, it's easy to set up, you run it, it makes the decisions for you, and it can run in expected ways.
And I want to add something to the economically scale to meet demand, and that plays into the solution as well as your infrastructure there. I know there's a lot of chatter in our space right now about solutions not being scalable, and maybe because you're paying per node, and every time you add another 100 end users because your business is growing, you now have to think about, I have to pay for another 100 nodes, and you want something that scales with you, a solution that will be able to grow with you without breaking the bank. Absolutely.
One last thing, just to nail that subject, is at the end of the day, as sysadmins and IT pros, the amount of work that you have to do and how busy you become is not always a factor of the number of nodes that you have. It's a factor of how many business critical systems you have. You could run a small business with 10 users, but they have super critical systems, and you need to be able to support them and fix any issues that pop up. Or you could have a business with 10,000 users, but it's actually very light. So it's not always a matter of the number of nodes. It's a matter of how empowered you are to get your job done.
So another thing you might want to consider is something that integrates with existing infrastructure. And this is there's some great points around this. Part of it is a lot of your environments you've spent considerable amounts of time building out permissions, building out infrastructure and Active Directory, and you want something that leverages that infrastructure.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've put in a large system and I'm just so tired with the process. Once it's all done, you start to forget about the reasons why you put it there. These things really should conform to the way that you think, the way that an IT professional thinks. Usually it's putting out some fires. You think of things in the user, then who's logged into a machine, then you have to fix something. Your tool really should target those needs, and it should, again, wrap around your IT infrastructure. So if you've got, Active Directory, something that you're always looking at, you know exactly how Active Directory operates in your environment because it's always different from place to place. Your remote management solution should wrap around that so that you can navigate it even easier.
And the other thing is you don't want to get, too tied into one solution. So if it means like by installing one solution you have to change your entire environment, then you're very, very committed to that solution. And then in 2 years down the line when, the price goes up 3 times, you're so committed to it and it's so hard to break away that it makes your life difficult. And that's something you want to consider as well.
Absolutely. And you shouldn't have to manage your management system. That's really what it comes down to. You have to manage your users and their machines, but you shouldn't really have to manage your management system. Now, this next slide we have here about response time and being proactive versus reactive. This is something that another thing that your remote management solution should really, really help you with. You should be able to come up with configurations and ideas based on your own environment. Everyone's environment is very different. So you know which systems are the problem systems. You know which departments run out of disk space very often and so on, because you understand how your environment works. So you should be able to piece together all the things that you need and tell a system to run and report back to you when anything is changing. And the same goes for your hardware monitoring and so on, and also throwing in there that automation phase in the automatic remediation. How many times have you run a recommended malware remover and, it doesn't really work the way you want? So you find yourself in there elbow deep in the registry and deleting files and so on. Well, your remote management solution should really give you the tiny little pieces. I like to kind of liken it to Lego blocks, right? So you don't buy a box of Legos because you want to build what's on the box. You buy a box of Legos because you want to build what it is that you want to do. And the same thing goes with your remote management solution. It should piece together all of the different components of a machine the way you're used to doing it, and you can build a system that is designed to execute what you need to execute. And as far as support goes, supporting collaboration. Now, we often find ourselves in IT always working on a team. We're always working on a team where, we have maybe 2 or 3 others of our peers up to, 20 or 30 people on the team. If you have that one great remediation step or that action that you put together, you want to make sure that the person next to you can do the same exact thing and save tons of time that way. Back to what I was saying again about that script. You download that great script, it runs right away, and it fixes your problem. You feel great. You can pass it to the next guy very easy. The same thing should happen in your remote management solution. You should be able to create complex actions, and the person next to you should be able to pick up and use it right away. So making sure that you have that team collaboration, being able to manage several machines at once or have many techs manage a machine at one time is super important.
And, like we mentioned on the slide, in looking at the SpiceWorks post on what you want for the 2014 holiday season, team collaboration was one of the things that came up surprisingly often. It seems like a lot of times, either the tools that we're using are not collaborative enough, or the workplace is not collaborative enough. So finding a tool that supports collaboration, that almost encourages it. I do want to take a quick second to mention we see a couple of quite a few questions coming through, and we will be addressing them all just to keep the flow of this part of the presentation. We're going to be moving on, but they are coming in, and we're recording them, and they'll all be addressed.
Okay, so one of the things we also have here is accuracy and availability of data. So we're all familiar with the larger products that have these giant database-driven systems, and they're great because you can always tap into the database and see what's going on. But how often do you find yourself actually having to use that information? Most of the time, you'll get a request, and you need to know what's happening now on those machines, not what happened a half an hour ago when every agent polled. So finding out what is going on in real time is the accuracy part. So that's being able to query a machine, right on the spot, without a doubt, what's going on in that machine, or a series of machines if you want. Now, if that machine is offline, then that's when you're really trying to determine what's going on there, because you have this asset management report. The system should then fall back on a database query. So you query in real time. If it's there, then you fall back on the database. It's just like making a phone call. You call someone because you want to speak to them right away, but if they're not there, then you get their voicemail. So that's kind of the way I liken it there. So it's really a matter of combining, getting the accuracy of the real-time feeling, but also having the availability of the data when you need it. And then, of course, security. I mean, this is probably one of the biggest things that's going on. There's so much talk now about things that are happening in the industry and all the security breaches. The cybersecurity market's said to double, quadruple this year. So a remote management solution should play a very big role in the way you think about security in your environment. Number one, you are using a remote management solution, so by its very nature, it has access to a lot of things. So its communication should always be secure. There should never be any plain text over the wire. So I urge anyone who's going to use a remote management solution, go get Wireshark, download it, sniff the traffic between your remote management system and your agent, and see what happens. So that's one thing. The next thing is incident response. So if something goes down and you have to change, the SQL Server services password on 50 SQL servers, how are you going to do that fast? That's one of the parts of incident response, Or you realize that, a certain set of users have local admin rights when they shouldn't. How are you going to respond to that fast? So your remote management solution should allow you to get into the nuts and bolts of any system and make sure that you can make those changes immediately. And then, like we said before, about managing the management system. Since it is, it's a footprint in your network, you should be able to centrally manage that system as well. And then, of course, when it comes down to it, make sure you're patched. Make sure your remote management system gives you some ability to get in there and check on Microsoft patches on the machine basis. Don't query a database. Query the machine directly. What patches do you have installed? What patches what third-party software do you have, and what versions are they up to? So those are some of the things that you definitely want to make sure, as far as security goes, that your remote management system can help you with. And, of course, there's the support part. At the end of the day, if you need help, you should always be able to get it with your remote management system. It's just one of those parts that is going to be a critical part of your day, and at the end of the day, if you need help, it's super important. And one thing that we like to make sure is that if you're going to have a remote management solution, the people helping you should have an understanding of how your job works. So make sure it's IT admins who are helping you out, and that's really, really key as far as getting support for your products.
And that's why working with Raul is fantastic. This is the part of the presentation where we're going to go into talking about Goverlan a bit. I can say just from working with Raul, who leads our customer support team, we have great people here that you can lean on. Great people who have really spent a good amount of time out in the field working in that capacity, who really understand the way this all works. And we're going to jump into a demo here. Raul is going to walk us through a little bit about how Goverlan addresses the first 9 of the top 10 factors that your solution needs. And so I'm going to hand it off to Raul again, who's just going to walk us through. What you're looking at right now is the splash screen when you first log into Goverlan.
All right, so one of the great things about Goverlan, so in some of these we noticed earlier or mentioned earlier in the slides, is that you want a system that is really designed around the way that you work. So what we strive to do here is we try to give you a console that really puts together all the actions that you're going to need in one location. Because there's nothing more irritating than trying to do a job that requires 3 different tools and logging into 3 different systems. So I'm going to run through a series of scenarios so that we can show you how this works. So the first scenario you probably hit all the time as somebody who's a first responder. You'll get a call from a user, which is always the first piece of data that you have, right, is the user, who you're talking to. That will always tell you the similar problems that they have, because maybe Ezra is always deleting his map drive, so I'm going to have to go and re-add it all the time. or whatever the case is. So you should always be able to locate your users quickly. So in this case, I'm just going to do a search. This is searching AD for a user, and I'm going to set focus on it. So what we see here is Goverlan is taking me to the OU where this user belongs, which is hands down great information because you're going to know, oh, I know that my colleague changed some GPOs in this OU the day before. So right away I know the user and I know what OU they're in, and I can anticipate issues that way. We can go ahead and go into some AD account administration if we want, or we can do something which is very unique to Goverlan, and that's the ability to detect where users are logged in. I'm working with a beta build here, so give me a second. The ability to detect where users are logged in. So let me just get back to that. And that has to be one of the greatest parts about using Goverlan or any remote management system that can make the distinction between the user and the account that they're logged in. I don't have to ask them where they're logged into. If there's a terminal services environment, I don't have to know what terminal server that they're running. Goverlan can go ahead and do that for us. So I can go ahead and expand the machine and begin to help the user right away. I can go into any of these nodes here, add, remove software. I can look at system information. I can do tons of things in there. And that's just by knowing the username. I can drill in and begin to use Goverlan right away. Everything that I'm showing you here requires very little setup. Most of the features that you'll see here you can use right away once you start downloading Goverlan, and then you can go ahead and
And what's interesting about these features is it plays back into the factor number 2 that we were talking about, in that this is all done behind the scenes. You know, when you're looking at system information, you're querying this in real time. You're seeing, and actually somebody had a comment in a question. Now, if we could only fix hardware problems using remote desktop, right? Which we can't do, obviously, but what we can do is, you know, save pans. And that's something when I talk to customers and prospects a lot, I say, you know, how often are you crawling underneath desks to look at what video card is installed or what other piece of hardware is going on? And what are you spending on pants as an IT professional? Because that's a big pain point, surprisingly. And so we can't fix hardware issues, but we can jump you to what's causing the problems without having you, you know, run around offices, run around locations, things like that. And again, anything you saw in that admin and diagnostics portion is everything that we are able to do all behind the scenes. So anything from deploying software to opening up the task manager to a lot more. And some of the collaboration tools that we talked about before are the ability to share MSI and EXE packages among team members. So if you're working on patch updates, you know, have something where you can share the patches out, where there's not a whole bunch of different people going and hunting down the latest versions. You know, you could build out a process by which everybody's using the same patches, everybody's using the same executables. You see some other actions in there like mapping drives and mapping printers, and so all of this is done behind the scenes. There's no need to interrupt your end user's day.
Now, at the end of the day, though, sometimes you do need to get onto a user's machine to see what's going on. That can be done very easily here just by doing a right-click and selecting remote control. At this point, you get that KVM functionality that, you know, a lot of us sometimes just need to do. So another part, just to mention here, is part of the UI. As you can see, we are wrapping around Active Directory. All the functions and features are based upon your AD structure. It's also based upon the level of access that you have to machines. So if you're not a local admin, you're not going to be able to do something. Goverlan takes your existing AD infrastructure and permissions in order to maintain security and to maintain integrity for what you're doing. So the other part here is the global management and scope action. Here in the scope action part, this is where we do that remediation, that runbook automation, that the things that you need to do to get to get your jobs done quicker. So I'll give you an example. I have a Java update action here. Let's say you have Java, which basically updates every day now, and you need to go ahead and update Java on all your machines. So you can come to a scope action and decide, based on the actions that you select, what you want to do. In this case, it will uninstall Java, and then it will install the latest. This is something you would have to curate yourself to grab your packages, put them on a share, tell Goverlan where they are, where you want them to install it, and it'll go ahead and push that information out. Scope actions as a whole is something, again, this is sort of like the Lego blocks that I was saying before. You pick and choose all your little items that you need either to make reports or to execute, and you can put them together in a stacked way that you can get that runbook feel. And then at the end of this, you can go ahead and set the conditions. And this is the intelligence part. So if you need to run a report on every machine that has less than a certain amount of disk space, or that has a certain service running, or a certain registry key is present, you can go ahead and choose those little pieces that you want and put them together in a nice, easy-to-use package. So as you can see here, it would take you no more than a few minutes to put together that scope action, run it, get the information that you want, and be able to report information or make the changes that you need. So that's the other key part of using of scope actions here. And the last part I'll go through is the remote control. Here, this is, like I said before, at the end of the day, you just need to get on that machine and see what's going on. So our remote control offering is pretty robust. We allow you to connect to machines through tons of different protocols, especially for that admin who wears many hats, being able to RDP into machines as well as Intel, vPro KVM sessions, doing behind-the-scenes command prompts or telnet and SSH for those network switches or printers that you want to get onto. Being able to do that all in one package is great. We've also brought the Fast Connect feature, which is the ability to detect logged-in workstations, to the remote control aspect. So now, when you, at the end of the day, you want to connect to your users. You have to connect to them to help them figure out problems. So don't fiddle around with machines and where they're logged in. Just go ahead and put in the username, click connect, and Goverlan is going to tell you where they're logged in.
And I can't, just to expand on that a little bit, we've all been faced with that scenario where, you're trying to help a user and they're saying they don't have an application or they don't have something, and you're like, no, I logged in and I installed it, and you realize that they switched machines on you or they're logged in somewhere else, or, you've just helped them in the wrong place. You've done your part, but it's just that they've confused the issue and you've gone to the wrong place to assist them. And so being able to detect where they're currently logged in, where they actually need that support is obviously a huge time saver and a huge headache saver as well.
And also for the system admins who have to monitor several machines at one time, or if you are working in an educational environment and you have to monitor a lab, another great thing about Goverlan is the ability to open several sessions at one time. We call this monitoring view. So I'm going to disconnect one here, and I'm going to take this OU, which I've imported into our favorite section. This is a live folder, so any machine that's added or removed from the domain will be in this folder. I can right-click here and select Open Session on a group, and I'll open a remote control session to all of these machines. Now what Goverlan is going to do is create a session for each of the machines and give you a great overview here as to what that looks like. Let's close that one out. That one's off. So here I'm actually connected to 14 different machines, and I can hover over to get any piece of information that's available here, which is the AD information and some machine info. We also have a great heat map-based monitoring view. So here you can choose some performance counters to add, and you can, of course, see what's going on with any of these machines here. You can right-click and begin to manage the machine as well. So those right-click actions, you'll find them all over Goverlan. If you find something, if you can't find anything, right-click it. Most likely it'll be in there. And then we can do things like recording a session, capturing a screen. If we need to jump into this session specifically, I can double-click it, jump into it, and jump out quickly. So this is the monitoring view. You can also save this layout, and this is a nice little thing to have.
And I love this feature because if, we mentioned like in a school lab environment where, you need to constantly log into the same group of machines. But the other place I think this is very powerful is if there's a group of servers that you want regular quick access to, you can save an icon on your desktop, jump right into it immediately, and be able to start working on those machines at any point. So I think this is a very powerful feature, especially combined with those heat map performance counters.
Right. So now what I've done is I have double-clicked the layout file, and Goverlan connects me to all the machines that I need to. So again, this is about working the way that you work. You, as a tech, you know who your user is. You want to know what machine they're logged into. You have to take all the guesswork out of that. So after you take all the guesswork out, you can start helping your users right away. And then on top of that, if you need to go ahead and do some configuration management, it's all in the same console. It's in one location, wrapped around Active Directory. I know we say that a bunch of times, but just so you know, Active Directory is not required. You can go ahead and use this in workgroup environments if you want. And you can really start to manage your machines, take control of them right away, perform actions instantaneously, all in a secure manner, and really just get down to the nuts and bolts of the command of all the machines in your network.
And there's another question here asking about UAC prompts, which is, I think, something that remote control solutions struggle with in general. Ro, can you tell us a bit about how Goverlan interacts with UAC?
Sure. I mean, since UAC came out, it's been the bane of our existence as sysadmins. It really makes things difficult, but in this world of security today, this is something that you have to deal with. The Goverlan agent is installed in such a way that it actually exists below the UAC prompt. So this is not running inside the user session. This is running inside an administrative session that has access to all the UAC prompts. So with Goverlan, you will not have any problems with UAC. You'll see the prompts on the screen if need be. You will not be blocked from controlling any UAC-based windows. So as far as that's concerned, here I can maybe I can give you an example. Let's see if I have UAC on one of these guys. No, that one's off. It may not have it enabled on one of these. But basically what's going to happen is you will get the prompt yourself. Or here it is. So you'll get one of these UAC prompts. A lot of remote control systems won't see this because it's running in the user session. But our agent exists at a much lower level, so we can go ahead and see these and interact with them.
So what about Wake on LAN?
We support Wake on LAN, definitely. So there's two flavors of power options that Goverlan can give you. If I go to one of these here, I can do a quick show. So if I come here to Power Options, Goverlan supports Wake on LAN. So I can power off machines. I can power them on. I can also use Intel vPro KVM-based power options, which is a much lower level. At that lower level, you're controlling the power options at the machine level. So, but definitely, if you turn off a machine and the machine's configured for Wake on LAN, you can send a Wake signal to it.
And what about one more question here from a user? I'm just trying to fill some of them in while we're talking about this topic. Do employees know that you're connected to their computer, or is it silent, so to speak? Do you have the ability to configure that and manipulate that?
Absolutely. With Goverlan, you can actually go from what I call two whole extremes. One of them is completely silent, where the user has no idea that you're logged in, or the other extreme of that, which is a completely compliant way of doing it, which is prompting the user for approval. And then in the middle, we have a happy middle ground, which is the banner that you now see here, which just lets the user know that someone is remote controlling the machine. So you have a pretty wide range of options. It's also worth noting that all the text that you see in these banners and the image here can be branded and customized to your needs.
That is fantastic.
So a lot of these things here that can be configured and set up so that you can really drive your experience here. We support multiple monitors. We can span monitors and so on. So that's also a big one for remote control.
That's great. And I know we have some exciting news today about a free product offering that we've just introduced. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. This is WMyX.
I'm not sure the presentation is pushed out right now because I think my machine crashed it.
Okay. Oh, you mean the screen share?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about it if anyone can't see it. What we have going on here is WMyX, which we've now released as a free download. Everyone can go ahead and use it. This is really designed around your power users. Anyone who is familiar with Windows management instrumentation and WMI, you're probably used to doing things like PowerShell scripts and accessing WMI through PowerShell or through command line and so on. What WMyX is, it's a really
Larry mentioned that he can still see the screen, so go ahead.
Okay, great. Thanks, Larry. So what we have going on here is we can now connect to machines remotely. I'll go ahead and do that. And by connecting to these machines, we're actually talking to the WMI repository on the machine, and we're giving it to you in a GUI-based method so that you don't have to learn scripting to necessarily leverage the power of WMI. If you wanted to do some scripting and you have some PowerShell knowledge and you're used to using that get WMI PowerShell commandlet, you can come in here and we can actually generate the query that you want. So we can come and say, I want to generate a query that gives me computer system information such as DNS host name and the install date, and then I can click next, and then I can add a filter. This is your where clause if you're familiar with WQL. I can click here where the boot up state is normal boot. And if I click finish, I can generate that WQL. And what's the great thing about this is it just actually integrates with other systems pretty nicely. If you are used to making SCCM queries, that's your WQL. That's the same language it uses. If you are used to doing GPO filters, that's the WQL that you're going to use there, as well as using PowerShell and so on. We can also generate VB scripts. So here's an auto-generated VB script based on the information that I changed. And then you can use that as the command line to do all kinds of things from behind the scenes. So that's our WMyX offering there.
So let's
and it's completely agentless. That's important.
That is important. So there's no agent using WMyX at all. But in simpler terms, it's basically WMI is what?
WMI is that very low-level repository that every Windows machine has. It's sort of like a database. It's treated very much like a database in the sense that it has this query language, and it's got really low-level details about the machines that you're querying, as well as a lot of the actions that you might want to perform. You can do it straight through WMI. So it's that very low-level information. I kind of like to liken it to that right below the registry level.
And I know a lot of remote management solutions leverage WMI, and I know that the reason why we built WMyX here was our development team needed a tool to help us enhance Goverlan. And
absolutely.
When they realized that they made this powerful tool, the decision was made, hey, let's push this out there. Let's see if people in the SpiceWorks community or other places would appreciate. I know free is always fantastic, but this powerful capability is there and available. The problem is the complexity that's involved. So having something that allows you to more easily explore WMI and create those WQL scripts.
Absolutely, and one of the great thing about WMyX is that we use it from a authoring point of view for Goverlan itself. So you can actually create a query here and then import this query into a scope action. So it sort of expands the universe where scope actions are and allows you to do other things with it.
And there have been a couple of requests for a link to WMyX. And in our last slide here, when we do the giveaways, that's one of our giveaways. So one of our giveaways, and it's available to anyone on the Goverlan.com site, but we'll give you a shortened link on the last slide that you can just go and grab it today if you want to get started in there. So are we done with our demo here? Ready to?
Yeah, I mean this is very high level, so make sure everyone can get to this afterwards, and also to visit our YouTube channel. We've got tons of videos on there going into these sort of things even in more detail.
That's fantastic. And I'm just jumping to factor number 10 that should be up on your screen right now, and that is great price. And we're promoting Goverlan head-on now, so if you're not here for the sales pitch, this is where you might want to tune out a bit. But, we mentioned before that you want a solution that scales with you. And one of the interesting things that we've done here at Goverlan is we really don't care about the number of agents you deploy or the number of machines you support, right? And it's because we want to be able to be that solution that scales with you. If you decide that, hey, I need to add another 500 machines or another 10 machines, you don't have to come back to us and work it out with us. We don't want to be a layer between you helping your organization grow and also being able to offer the support that they need. So we've developed this pricing model where it's just per technician, per operator that needs access to Goverlan itself. If you want everything that you saw in this demo, which is the admin and diagnostics portion, the behind-the-scenes remote management or remote control, and scope actions, which is that global configuration, it all packages together nicely at a $100 discount for a total of $800. You can also buy anything a la carte, and you can mix and match if you need a couple of different licenses. So we really want to work with the way you work internally. So if you only have one person that needs access to global configuration management because they handle all your patches, but they never jump into administration and diagnostics, you can get that done. And then we're going to push out one more factor that you may want to think about, and this was another informal survey of our audience there, and that's you want something that has great return on investment. So having a solution where you'll earn your investment back and what that time frame looks like. And what we did is we asked Goverlan customers, how much time they spent, for example, on software deployments per month before they had access to Goverlan, and then how much they spent on it afterwards, and took the average rate that you guys are earning, which is we found to be around $35 an hour, and said, hey, look, you're almost paying for Goverlan Suite in about a month. If you're spending a ton of time on desk side visits, which I think a lot of us are, it's even quicker, and so you can get a good idea of what our current customer base experiences from using our product, what their experience is. And if any of you guys want more details on this, feel free to reach out. And somebody's asking back on the pricing slide, is $800 yearly or a one-time fee? And so what I can mention on that is it is a one-time fee. We have optional maintenance and support plans. The maintenance plans it's an upgrade coverage plan. It entitles you to version updates for as long as you're in maintenance, and support entitles you to interact with our support team here. If you were to purchase from us, 3 months of both of those are included. But if you wanted to extend that out for another year, you wanted to feel good about, hey, I have Raul and his team to lean on, that option is there for you. We also have per incident support plans if you don't feel like paying for it all up front. So, somebody else is asking, how much is support? Just support alone is 10% of your license price, just about. It's very industry standard. Again, 3 months is free, and it's completely optional. And just to close things out here, you got that bonus great ROI slide. So we turned it up to 11 for those of you who are familiar with Spinal Tap. You'll get that reference. What are next steps? What should I do next? I want to learn more about Goverlan. You can visit us at Goverlan.com. You want free WMyX. It's bit.ly/free-WMyX. And we're going to give away some stuff, and we're going to take some questions, we'll move on from there. So I'm going to answer a couple of questions. We have a little less than 10 minutes here. We'll answer a couple of questions, and then we'll do that giveaway. So the first one here says, Goverlan sounds great, thank you. But what are its limitations? Like, what about environments without Active Directory or remote employees?
Well, that's a great question. So today we have this great divide about where we want to house our remote management system. It's a lot of times it has to do with your specific business model. Goverlan is really designed to be short and fast. So it's designed to be quick to install and ready to use. But because we're a real-time management system, it's important that Goverlan is used on-premise. So if you have some of your cloud-based offerings, because your business model is such that you're MSP and so on and so forth, we do have some ways to work with MSPs as far as the licensing model is concerned and so on. And we're always willing to work with anyone as far as getting Goverlan to work the way they want it to work, regardless of your business type. But it is important because of the interaction that we have with machines that Goverlan is really used on premise. So that's one of the areas that you want to make sure that you have that need for an on-premise solution.
And Sam is asking a really good question, which we kind of skipped in our presentation, which are what are the resource requirements for the software? It seems like this is going to be bulky and heavy and intense. It seems like it does so much. So speak to that a bit.
No, absolutely. That's another great question. It's when it comes to Goverlan, because it was designed to be very lightweight and easy to use, it's actually coded in C++, which means that it's very native Windows code. It requires almost no resources whatsoever. If you install a Goverlan agent, let's say you compare that to some of the other bulkier systems, the Goverlan agent is less than 5 megabytes in size, in total disk space, and it occupies a tiny fraction of memory usage. And that's because it's a passive agent. It sits there and waits for you to do something. All the actual control and management of Goverlan comes through the console itself, not the agents. So on the agent point of view, it's super lightweight, super fast. You won't even know that it's there. And then from the console point of view, again, coded in a very native Windows language, very small installation footprint for your console. Everything that I showed you there comes in one exe that's under 60 megs or something like that for the actual installation. And it's super lightweight. So we don't really actually have minimum requirements because it'll run on almost anything.
So Sasha's asking, would you install this on a workstation or a server? And you talked to that a little bit. And this is meant to be installed on the operator's workstation where he's doing the work. We don't want him to have to remote into a server just to start supporting end users. This is, you install it on the machine where you're spending your day and supporting your users. And there are some server components, and those server components address shore data for the most part, and that's where we combine that accuracy and availability. So that's where we store the last available data when an offline machine checked in. We'll store what we got off that machine, and the other thing that it supports is the ability to collaborate, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So the agents are designed in such a way that many Goverlan users can interact with the same machine at the same time, including remote control. So you can have 3 techs remote controlling the same machine, all looking at the same session. To talk about the footprint a little bit more, as far as when everyone hears database, they're thinking, oh my God, SQL Server, big bulky thing I got to put somewhere. We actually designed Goverlan to work right off the bat with a SQLite database at first. You have the option to scale up to SQL Server if you so feel the need to, and we're also compatible with SQL Server Express as well as the full version.
Talk about pushing out agents for Sasha as well. Is there an automated way to push out the agents? How do we handle that? Because I know a lot of other solutions in the space require you to first deploy all the agents to everywhere in your environment, and then if you have a 10,000-seat environment, and we know what deploying, it's like when I do email marketing and I'm going to send out an email, I'm thinking right when I'm going to hit that send button is, if I'm sending this to 500 people, if there's a mistake in that email, I'm making 500 mistakes. And I can only imagine the pressure that comes with deploying a piece of software to 10,000 machines.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a pretty good point. When it comes to deploying anything, when you're sitting there in your environment, of course, the point that you made, you're thinking about what's the impact that this agent is going to have on all of my machines. What's the disruptiveness of the installation of the agent. So when it comes to Goverlan, because it was pretty much designed by sysadmins, we've thought about many different ways for you to get your agent out. The first thing is, again, like I was saying before about that feeling where you download that tool and you use it right away and it works. The agent can be deployed ad hoc. So you download Goverlan, install it on your machine, that's your footprint right there. If you need to help someone out, Goverlan can push the agent on demand to that machine, and you can continue on with your business. And, of course, we scale all the way up to the enterprise level where you're going to, if you want to push the agent out to all your machines, you can most certainly run a scope action that'll do that. We also give you an EXE or an MSI if you want to go another route with pushing the agent. So we have many different areas covered there, many bases covered as far as installing the agent.
I'm going to pause here and see if Emily wants to give away some prizes, and if we have time, we'll answer a couple of more questions. But everybody who posed questions to us, and there are a lot in here, we would be here for another hour if we tried to address them all now. But anybody who posed questions to us, we've recorded those, and we will get you answers. We will be in touch within the next couple of days. But Emily, you want to help us out with giving away some cool stuff? Did we lose Emily?
Yeah, absolutely. What a great presentation and live demo. So our first winner of the $100 Amazon gift card is Kevin Murphy. Congratulations, Kevin. And our winner of the GoPro Hero 3 is John Lane. Congratulations to both of our winners.
Awesome. Congratulations, John and Kevin. That is fantastic. So if you feel like you've learned a lot from this session, we really thank you for attending. We're going to try and tackle one or two more questions as time ticks down, but we just want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for attending today. This was really fantastic. We hope you learned and enjoyed it as much as we learned from it and enjoyed it as much as we did. And just a couple of more questions. What if remote users are on VPN?
That's a good question as well. Goverlan only requires just a very few things to actually make a connection to machine or to manage it. You have to know its local admin username and password if it's not domain joined, and you need an IP address to hit. That includes functionality with VPN-based machines. You would just target the VPN IP address of that machine, and as long as you know the local admin username and password, it's just like managing it as if it were on your LAN.
And can you automate some of the reports and scope actions?
Absolutely. You can go ahead and create the scope actions that I showed you earlier, and then you can schedule them so that they can run when you want them to. Goverlan will continue to run reports for as long as you have the schedule for.
And what about on an alerting basis? Is there a way for me to go and put in a condition and say, alert me when something happens? So kind of that proactive approach that we talked about earlier?
Absolutely. So you can go ahead and create scope actions that will run and evaluate a condition while it's running. So while it's doing that, you can have it email you if the condition is met. So if the condition is met, you can get an email alert, and then you'll get the report that you were looking for.
there's a bunch of questions about a little more clarity on pricing, so I'm going to push up that slide one more time. All of this pricing is not yearly. It's one-time perpetual license. You buy it, you own it, it's yours. Again, those upgrade coverage and support plans would entitle you to all the version updates or entitle you to contact Goverlan support as much as you want. But once you purchase from us, it's yours. You can use it, and we're not going to, we might try and sell you more occasionally, but we're not going to harass you. We're not going to, change pricing models on you halfway through and start charging you to push out nodes. That's not our plan. There's another question about plans to stop support for Windows XP or Server 2003. Do you?
So currently we are supporting them. As far as our agent and console go, we'll be supporting them for some time on, as long as it's something that needs to be there.
And another common question is, will this work with MSPs? I know the MSP space is looking for more. They're looking for a better solution, and there's a lot in our solution that's very attractive. So, I think this is one of those areas where, it's kind of difficult for us, but I'll let you address that.
So strictly from a technical point of view, Goverlan does require direct communication with an IP address of any node. So that makes things like NAT and networks a little bit tough for us. So what we do, we will make sure that we work with you as an MSP to make sure that Goverlan works as best it can for you. I can give you some examples. Some of our MSP-based customers have administrative VPNs. If so, they have that. They can remote control. They can just turn on the VPN for any network that they're trying to go into, and they can use all of the Goverlan features locally and natively as they wanted to. Some other MSPs don't have that luxury, so they do things like they'll install Goverlan on each site, and by doing so, we'll work with you as far as the pricing is not the same at that point. So we'll work with you on a per site basis where you can get Goverlan at a great price and still be able to use it. You just have to remote into a machine that's on site and use it that way.
And again, all the pricing that you're seeing is all per operator, so per technician that needs access to Goverlan. It supports an unlimited number of nodes, so no matter how many end users you want, and this is part of that scalability where whether you're only supporting 10 or 10,000, you're still paying the same price as long as it's the same number of technicians. So if you have a help desk team that has 10 people, you would need to buy a license for each person that needs access to Goverlan. And I think that pretty much takes us a little bit over time. Sorry about that, Emily. But we do want to close with thanking you guys again. This was really fantastic. And we hope to be in touch with all of you. And if there's any questions that remained unanswered, we will make sure to address them.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We all hope that everyone learned something from this. And as we usually go here, we just like to make sure that everybody has something that they can use and works the way that they work.
Awesome. Thank you, Ezra and Raul. I hope everyone is able to learn a bit more about remote management solutions. Just a reminder to keep an eye out on your inbox for a message from me if you're the winner from our contest. I do also want to remind everyone that if your question wasn't asked live, Goverlan will be able to follow up with you. And if you had to step out or miss any part of today's presentation, you will be receiving an email in a few days with a link to view the webinar on demand. Special thanks to Goverlan for sponsoring today's event. Also, thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in today. We hope to see you back soon for another Spiceworks Partner Webinar. Until then, stay spicy.